On a cold Halloween morning in 1943, Staff Sergeant Arthur Benko watched through his gun sights as 29 Japanese fighter planes climbed toward his bomber formation over Hong Kong. At 32 years old, he'd already survived 17 dangerous missions over enemy territory and claimed 7 enemy aircraft, but today would test everything he believed about aerial combat. Benko's B-24 bomber squadron had lost 11 gunners in just 4 months. The pattern was terrifyingly predictable. Japanese pilots would spot the bright tracer rounds streaming from American gun positions and follow those glowing lines straight back to their source. Most gunners didn't survive the first attack run. Every gunner in the 14th Air Force loaded their machine gun belts identically for regular bullets, one tracer round that glowed bright phosphorus to help adjust aim. The tracers were supposed to help, showing exactly where your bullets traveled through the sky. Benko thought this was the most dangerous idea he'd ever encountered. Growing up in Bisbee, Arizona, he'd been captain of his high school football team before working as an electrician in the copper mines. But his true passion was competitive shooting. He spent countless weekends at rifle ranges, loading his own ammunition and studying ballistics until his hands ached. In 1937, he placed 6th at the National Rifle Championship. 3 years later, he won the Arizona state title and served as president of the Bisbee Rifle and Pistol Club. When he volunteered for military service in 1941, at age 30, the recruiting sergeant noticed his exceptional shooting scores and sent him directly to aerial gunnery school in Nevada. Benko graduated at the top of his class and was assigned to the 374th Bomb Squadron, deploying to China in early 1943 as top turret gunner on a B-24 nicknamed the Goon. The first time Benko inspected his ammunition supply, he immediately understood the fatal flaw. Japanese pilots weren't fools. They'd see those glowing streams and follow them straight back. That night, he sat alone in the armament tent with 500 rounds spread across a table and methodically removed every single tracer round, replacing them with standard ammunition. The other gunners thought he'd lost his mind. How could anyone hit a target without seeing where their bullets went? Benko told them he'd been shooting competitively for 15 years and didn't need glowing bullets to know his ballistics. He trusted his training completely. His squadron commander warned him he was making a terrible mistake. The armorer said the tracers were regulation. Benko didn't care now, watching those Japanese fighters climb toward him through broken clouds. Everything he believed would either save his life or prove everyone else right. Want to know if Benko's gamble paid off? Keep reading to discover what happened when Invisible Death met the Japanese fighters. The lead Japanese Zero fighter opened fire at 1,800 yards, too far for accuracy. The cannon rounds fell harmlessly beneath Benko's bomber. He waited calmly, his finger resting on the trigger. The gunnery manual instructed opening fire at 1,000 yards. But Benko had read that manual and discarded half its advice. He tracked the climbing Zero through his reflector sight. 1,500 yards. 1,200 yards. The fighter's wings flashed in the morning sunlight. Not yet. At 1,000 yards. The Zero's nose lifted as the pilot lined up his guns. Benko squeezed the trigger. His twin 50 caliber machine guns roared to life, firing 50 rounds per second. No tracers. No glowing trails. Just invisible death cutting through the air at nearly 3,000 feet per second. The Zero's canopy shattered. The fighter rolled left and spiraled downward, trailing black smoke. Benko was already tracking his second target. He fired a 3-second burst. The Zero's engine exploded into flames. 2 enemy fighters down in 40 seconds. The Japanese pilots scattered in confusion. They could see American bombers and muzzle flashes, but no tracer streams showing which turret was firing. They had no idea where the deadly accurate fire was coming from. Benko rotated his turret right. Another Zero was attacking a nearby B-24. The Japanese pilot, focused entirely on that bomber, never saw Benko's guns swing toward him. Benko fired. The Zero's wing tore away. 3 kills. Meanwhile, Other American gunners in the formation continued firing with standard ammunition loads. Their bright orange tracer rounds drew perfect lines across the sky, advertising their exact positions. Japanese pilots followed those glowing streams back to their sources and concentrated devastating fire on the gun positions they could see. 2 B-24s fell from formation. 16 American gunners died in 90 seconds. But no Japanese pilot could see Benko's fire. His bullets arrived without warning, without any glowing advertisement of his position. He was invisible death from nowhere. A Zero dove beneath the goon and pulled up hard for an underbelly attack. Benko rotated his turret and fired straight down. The burst walked up the Zero's fuselage and into the cockpit. 4 kills. The air battle lasted 8 brutal minutes. Benko fired 640 rounds until his gun barrels glowed red from heat. When the goon landed back at their Chinese airfield 3 hours later, his squadron commander was waiting with the gun camera footage. 7 confirmed kills. 7 Japanese fighters destroyed by 1 gunner in 1 mission, the highest single mission score for any bomber gunner in the 14th Air Force. The other gunners finally understood. The Japanese couldn't kill what they couldn't see. Within 1 week, half the gunners in the 308th Bomb Group had removed their tracers. Within 2 weeks, 3/4 had adopted Benko's modification. The change spread to other squadrons, other bomb groups across China. Benko had started a revolution in aerial warfare, but removing tracers was only part of his success. His incredible shooting scores resulted from 15 years of competitive marksmanship. He knew exactly where his rounds traveled without needing glowing bullets to show him something most gunners simply couldn't do. By mid-November, Benko's confirmed kill count had climbed to 12. He was approaching records held by fighter pilots, yet fighter aces received medals and publicity while bomber gunners just kept flying missions until they died or completed their tours. On November 14, 1943, just 2 weeks after his Halloween triumph, Benko climbed into his turret for a mission to Hong Kong Harbor. His confirmed kills stood at 7 from that one mission. Waiting over the harbor were more Japanese Zeros than he'd ever seen in one place. What happened next would push Benko's skills to the absolute limit. Continue reading to discover the battle that would seal his legacy. The mission briefing had been dangerously optimistic. 14 B-2 for Liberators from the 308th Bomb Group would strike Japanese shipping in Hong Kong Harbor. Intelligence estimated light fighter opposition, maybe a dozen Zeros. They were catastrophically wrong. The goon lifted off at 5:30 a.m. on November 14th. Captain Samuel Skousen held tight formation as the squadron climbed to altitude. Benko test-fired his guns over the mountains of southern China. Both 50s functioned perfectly. He'd loaded fresh ammunition belts the night before 1,000 rounds. 0 tracers. The 2-hour 40-minute flight to Hong Kong was uneventful. The formation crossed the Chinese coast at 14,000 feet and began their final climb to bombing altitude. At 8:10 a.m., they spotted Hong Kong Island through broken clouds. 2 minutes later, the first Zeros appeared. Japanese commanders at Kai Tak Airfield had been expecting the raid. They'd scrambled every available fighter. 34 Mitsubishi A6M Zeros climbed to meet the American bombers. With the 4, Benko counted them through his gun. Sight more fighters than he had ammunition for. More than his entire squadron could handle. The Zeros attacked in coordinated pairs, a tactic they'd perfected. 2 fighters would attack from the nose while 2 more came from the beam, and 2 more from below, overlapping. Fields of fire designed to overwhelm defensive positions. The lead Zero came in high and fast. Benko tracked him and fired a 4-second burst. The Zero's engine disintegrated. The fighter snapped, inverted, and fell. 1 down. 2 more Zeros attacked from the right. Benko rotated his turret and caught the leader with concentrated fire to the cockpit. The second Zero broke off. 2 down. The Zero made a head-on pass at the goon. Benko couldn't bring his top turret to bear on a target directly ahead. He watched helplessly as the nose gunner's tracer's bright, betraying tracers streamed toward the fighter. The Zero's guns flashed. 20mm rounds punched through the goon's nose section. The bombardier, First Lieutenant Malcolm Sanders, took a direct hit and died instantly. 3 Zeros attacked from below. Benko rotated downward and fired at the leader. The burst hit the Zero's wing root. The wing folded, and the fighter tumbled away. 3 down. The formation was disintegrating. B-24s scattered across 10 miles of sky. Some turned back toward China. Others pressed toward the target. Japanese fighters pursued them all. Benko fired constantly short controlled bursts. 4 seconds. Traverse. Fire. Traverse. Fire. A Zero exploded. 4 down. Another fell away trailing smoke. 5 down. Then the goon's number 3 engine began losing oil pressure. Black smoke streamed from the cowling. Captain Skousen shut it down and feathered the propeller. The bomber slowed, falling behind the formation. Falling behind meant dying alone. Japanese fighters always concentrated on stragglers. Benko knew what was coming. He rotated his turret and waited. 6 Zeros peeled off from the main battle and dove toward the goon. Benko checked his ammunition counter. 400 rounds remaining. He would need every single one. The 6 Zeros came in waves, 2 from above, 2 from the beam, 2 from below. Classic, overwhelming tactics. Benko engaged the high pair first as they dove out of the sun at 400 miles per hour. Benko was about to face the fight of his life with dwindling ammunition and a crippled bomber. Continue reading to see if his skills could overcome impossible odds. Benko led the first diving, 0x3 aircraft lengths, and fired. The burst caught the fighter's engine dead center. Flames erupted from the cowling. The Zero rolled onto its back and fell away, burning. 6 down. The second Zero from above broke right. Benko tracked him through the turn and fired a 2-second burst. The rounds walked across the Zero's fuselage. The canopy shattered. The fighter went into a flat spin. 7 down. The beam attack came from the left. 2 Zeros in tight formation. They opened fire at 1,200 yards. Their 20mm rounds tore through the goon's left wing. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the aluminum skin. Benko rotated his turret and engaged the leader. His first burst missed. He corrected and fired again. The Zero's wing exploded. 8 down. The second Zero from the beam continued his attack run, guns flashing. Rounds punched through the goon's tail section, shredding the rudder. Captain Skousen fought desperately to keep the bomber level. Benko fired at the attacking Zero a 3-second burst. The rounds hit the fighter's fuel tank. The Zero disintegrated in an orange fireball. 9 down. The 2 Zeros attacking from below pulled up hard. One positioned himself directly beneath the goon, where Benko's top turret couldn't reach. The other climbed for another pass. Benko rotated to track the climbing. 0. His ammunition counter read 140 rounds. He squeezed the trigger. Nothing happened. The gun's head jammed. He cleared the jam in 8 seconds. Years of practice. Pang-off pulled the charging handles. Recharged both weapons. The Zero was 500 yards out and closing fast. Benko fired. The burst shredded the Zero's tail section. The fighter spun out of control. 10 aircraft damaged or destroyed in 12 minutes. But the goon was dying. Number 3, engine dead. Number 4, engine overheating. Hydraulics failing. Rudder damaged. The bomber was losing altitude at 300 feet per minute. Captain Skousen's voice crackled over the intercom. They were 40 miles from the Chinese coast. He didn't know if the bomber would make it. He ordered everyone to prepare to bail out. Benko looked down at the South China Sea. Japanese patrol boats moved between the islands. The water was cold in November. If they went down in the ocean, Japanese vessels would reach them within an hour. Capture meant torture and execution. The goon crossed the coastline at 8,000 feet, still losing altitude. Captain Skousen aimed for Geelin Airfield, 160 miles inland. At 6,000 feet, the No. 4 engine caught fire. Flames streamed past the wing. The fire suppression system failed. Captain Skousen gave the order, "Bail out now." The co-pilot went first, jumping from the nose hatch. His parachute deployed clean. The navigator followed. Benko climbed down from his turret. 3 more crew members lined up at the hatch. He grabbed his parachute pack. The bomber was at 4,000 feet when he reached the hatch. Below him stretched occupied China. Japanese troops controlled every village, every road, every rice paddy. Captain Skousen shouted from the cockpit. He was staying with the aircraft, attempting to land at Geelin. The engineer stayed with him. So did the radio operator. Benko looked at the burning engine, looked at the altimeter. 3,800 feet. He made his decision. He jumped. His parachute deployed at 3,000 feet. He drifted down toward the hills of southern China, toward whatever was waiting for him on the ground. Behind him, Captain Skousen performed a miracle, wrestling the crippled bomber to a crash landing at Guilin that he and his 2 crewmates survived. But Benko was alone now, descending into enemy territory with a small pistol, 8 rounds, and $47 in Chinese currency. Benko's greatest test wasn't over, it was just beginning. Continue reading to discover what happened to the gunner who changed aerial warfare forever. Subscribe right now, because we're pulling forgotten heroes out of history's shadows every single week. Don't miss the next one.